the Sports Betting Network.
The numbers told the story, they always do.
It's one of those idiots who believe in analytics.
This is a numbers game with Gil Alexander on VSiN.
Good Friday morning to you. It is a numbers game at VSiN, the Sports Betting Network, VSiN.com, K+, iHeartRadio, YouTube TV. However you're taking us in, we appreciate it. It's Gil Alexander. Kelly Bidlin, not with us today. I don't want to say under the weather because he thinks he ate something bad. So I don't think that doesn't really qualify as under the weather. Either way, he it was a game time decision, and he's a no-go in the end. So Kelly will be back on Monday, and we hope that he gets better soon. Still, though, Football Fridays is in full effect. Coming up in the second hour of the show, Falika, Fezzik, Dr. Bob. Does it get better than that? I don't know. There's a crack hour, too. I don't know. Does it get better than that? That's what it is come an hour from now. Chris Falika from Fox on all of his bets, including college football, of course. Steve Fezzik with thoughts on the NFL, specifically, should the Bengals have gone or not last night? His answer may surprise you, and he's got look-aheads at Dr. Bob on college football. We also have Paul Carr on the Premier League. Paul Carr, who's coming off a 3-0 Premier League weekend, and then I think a 2-1 Champions League performance midweek here. And then Jason Weingarten from Under a Cloud of Smoke. We'll get to him as well. We will do Are We Sure for the National Football League Week 10, but we must begin with last night's Bengals-Ravens game, which the Ravens win by a point, 35-34. They obviously don't cover the spread, but they do get there on the money line barely. I don't usually start with tweets, but I just want to give a couple tweets here at the beginning because they are complete opposite viewpoints of this football game from a macro level. Xavier82 says, before I pass out for the night, wasn't that an instant classic? Maybe not the entire game, but man, from the second half on, that game just got more and more nuts. That's why we watch this sport, even if it's Plinko. That was quickly not countered. He wasn't really responding to that, but just a different viewpoint on the game from Betting X Factors, who said that was one of the most unserious football games I've ever watched. A 5-yard out route turns into an 80-yard touchdown. When's the last time you've seen anything like that in the NFL? Missed ref calls when, oh, wait, every week. I think both of those are pretty interesting perspectives, and just as I'm ready to say, oh, yeah, it was an instant classic, especially juxtaposed against how bad so many of these games have been this season. But you're kind of right, and we'll get to it a little bit. We'll pick up with the score 7-7. This is the final minute of the second quarter. It's 7-7. Now, for those of us who had the under, I had the under 52.5. I had it on the Megapod yesterday. Let me just repeat that. 7-7 in the final minute of the first half. So I'm thinking, I'm just a genius, for God's sakes. So what does that make that? 55 points were scored in the last 30 and a half minutes of that football game last night. And remember, at the end of the first half, before the Bengals scored with 30 seconds left in the half to make it 14-7 Cincinnati, 2 plays before that, Burrow appeared to have been picked off. He did hit Tanner Hudson from 3 to make it 14-7. But remember, Brandon Stevens looked like he had picked off Burrow in the corner of the end zone. That might have resulted in the half ending 7-7, but not to be because Stevens' second foot was ruled out of bounds. And so there's a touchdown for the Bengals to close out the half to make it 14-7. And then real quick after a Baltimore 3-and-out to begin the second half, Cincinnati first play, Burrow to Chase for 67. And the Bengals are up 14 less than 2 minutes into the second half. Chase on that 67-yard touchdown pass clocked by Next Gen Sports at 20.86 miles per hour. As a point of reference, Steve Austin, the $6 million man, he used to top out at 60, and Chase was 20.86. Just want to give you some context on that. Then 21-7, and this is the thing. Everybody's going to come down to that 2-point conversion, and we will get to that. But there were so many things in this game here in the second half that Cincinnati only has themselves to blame for. Next time they get the ball after a Baltimore punt, they're up 14. 2nd and 5 at their own 27. Chase Brown hit by Marlon Humphrey. He fumbles, recovered by Roquan Smith. That really was the turning point of the football game because Baltimore set up at the Cincinnati 31 4 plays later. An insane Lamar Jackson 10-yard gain where he actually went back 20 yards from the line of scrimmage, then navigated the sidelines 30 yards forward, where both B.J. Hill and Jermaine Pratt couldn't figure out a way to knock him out of bounds. And the next play, Henry was in from 21-14 Cincinnati with 4:12 left in the third quarter. That was after, that was, if you recall, the play where he went back 20 yards and gained 30 for a 10-yard net gain. Lamar, on the play before the touchdown, he ran a grand total of over 50 yards just on that play alone. And again, neither Hill or Pratt could knock him out of bounds. Cincinnati gets the ball. Now they're up 7. Okay. This one, not so controversial. They got it to the Baltimore 34, but there was a sack. So at the 40, they decided we're not going to kick a 57-yard field goal. We're going to punt. All right, not so bad. I get that one. But Baltimore goes 3 plays, 92 yards. Here's another one. Again, so far, what have we had? We've had the fumble that changed the 14-point lead quickly into a 7-point lead. We've had them not being able to knock out Lamar Jackson on that scramble on the play prior to that touchdown and knock it down to 21-14. And then on this drive, it's 3 play, 92 yards. But really what it was Lamar to Tylan Wallace from 84 yards away, with 3 guys on the Bengals defense having a shot, a legitimate shot at bumping Wallace out of bounds, and they could not. And I have license plate numbers on all of them. Cam Taylor-Britt, Logan Wilson, Geno Stone. None of them could see fit to knock Tylan Wallace. That's the play that we just got the tweet about. You never see that. You're like, how is it that they didn't knock him out? Unbelievable play, and that cuts it to 21-20. By the way, it's the longest pass play of Lamar Jackson's career, and so you're like, it's going to be tied. And then Justin Tucker misses the extra point. Like, this was getting Michigan of this game at this point. Justin Tucker, prior to that miss, had made 500 of 506 extra points in his career till he misses that one. By the way, percentage on that, 98.81%. And then he misses that extra point. So it's 21-20 Cincinnati, a minute and a half into the fourth quarter. Now here again, this is where the decision-making can be questioned from Zach Taylor and crew. Cincinnati 4th and 2 at the Baltimore 34 with 9:29 to go. In real time, I'm like, okay, you're taking Evan McPherson out on the field. You're going to up this lead to 4 points. It's a 51-yard field goal in a season where everybody's making 51-yarders. With the possible exception of McPherson, who's 3 of 6 from beyond 50. Looked it up afterwards, so maybe I kind of get it. There might be a crisis in confidence with McPherson. Either way, they eschew, if you will, the 51-yard field goal. McPherson 13 of 17 on the year, 3 of 6. Burrow incomplete, deep, intended for Jermaine Burton. I mean, if you're going to go for it, why the low percentage bomb at that point? So another thing you can really question the Bengals about. And then quickly, the Ravens make them pay for it. Lamar to Andrews, wide open on 3rd and 19 at the Cincinnati 18. Touchdown, Lamar in on the 2-point conversion. And all of a sudden, the game has been flipped from a 14-point deficit to a 7-point lead for Baltimore, 28-21 with 5:50 to go. Cincinnati, again, responds. 1 play. Burrow to Chase for 70. We're tied. 28 apiece with 5:37 left. There go the unders. That quickly. So it was just not even close to being an under in the end. Baltimore ensuing drive. First play, Cam Taylor-Britt appears to pick Lamar, but he doesn't. Couldn't corral the ball on the ground, and that leads, or doesn't lead to, but it allows Baltimore to go 11 plays, 70 yards. Lamar, a jump pass to Rashad Bateman from 5 out, 35-28 Baltimore with 1:49 left. I do want to say one note about that part, when Baltimore puts it up 35-28. Both Al Michaels, but particularly Kirk Herbstreit, started to ruminate about, well, maybe Cincinnati should let them score a touchdown. It was utter nonsense. At the 2-minute warning, Cincinnati still had a timeout, and it was 2nd down. So if you can stop them on 2nd down, let's say it's a running play, theoretically, you call the timeout, you could still force a field goal. I get it will be with 1:15 left as opposed to 1:45, but you could still force a field goal instead of just letting them score a touchdown and you having to matriculate the whole way down the field. Anyway, didn't understand that Michigas. Cincinnati is down 7. As it turns out, it didn't matter, 35-28. They go 70 yards. It includes a 4th down conversion from their own 30 that goes exactly 10 yards to Josefas. Burrow to Chase from 5 out eventually is the touchdown on just a beautiful pass where he goes over the interior defenders and just inside, or just really just put it in a pocket, and Chase made a great catch in the corner of the end zone, but just a perfectly lofted pass. And the play before that I want to point out as well, because that's everybody's going to focus on the touchdown, the 2-point conversion. Chase Brown goes out of bounds. Chase Brown goes out of bounds on the previous play to stop the clock at 38 seconds. When we get to Fezzik, we're going to talk about why that was such a big deal, because Fezzik has a thing with You go for 2, you don't go for 2 based on how much time is left. So Chase Brown going out with 38 seconds left was interesting. Next play was the Burrow to Chase touchdown pass. Remember, earlier in the drive, they missed a face mask, a clear face mask that the Bengals were able to overcome. Nnamdi Madubuike was hit Burrow in the face mask, so the Bengals were able to overcome that. And then it's the 2-point conversion, right? They're down a point, 35-34. Do you kick the extra point with just over 30 seconds left, or do you go for 2 and try to go ahead? Obviously, with that much time left on the clock. Gesicki is held by Trenton Simpson in the end zone. Burrow is smacked in the face mask by Travis Jones. Incomplete, intended for Tanner Hudson. Nothing called. Ball game. This is just reminiscent of 2 weeks ago, if you recall, on Thursday Night Football, when Sam Darnold was hit in the face mask by the Rams, and specifically Byron Young, and that was uncalled, and so it ended up being a safety that put the Rams up 10, and it was kind of Katie bar the door. Refs completely missed that. So here we are 2 weeks later on the final drive, and specifically on the 2-point conversion, the refs missed 2 shots to Joe Burrow's face that obviously had a huge impact on this ballgame. Well, at least the one on the 2-point conversion had the ultimate impact. And Al Michaels, it set Al Michaels off. He said he just absolutely went ballistic on it. In Al Michaels' kind of ballistic way. He said, quote, "Too many games end this way. They just do. You miss calls, the whole thing. So frustrating to the fans. So frustrating." We bet on this stuff. We'll talk more about this football game because there's a whole bunch more to talk about. And again, with Fezzik in the second hour, we'll talk about should the Bengals have gone for 2? Should they have not? We'll have a little counterpoint on that. Congratulations if you had the Ravens on the money line or the Ravens in some kind of money line parlay. But Bengals get the ATS. Implications on awards also on the other side. We'll talk more. Aren't we sure? Next.
Coming up Friday on Follow the Money, we'll recap a big Thursday night football game. Look ahead to the weekend with Mike Somich, picks and props, and Drew Butler on the big games in the SEC. Follow the Money weekdays, 4 to 7 Eastern on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Want to see who at VSiN is on a hot streak? Go to VSiN.com/picks to see all the selections and weekly leaderboard of VSiN hosts, writers, and guests. Become a VSiN Pro subscriber and get every pick sent to your inbox daily. Just head to VSiN.com/pro.
So, Paulie, have you had a chance to read the VSiN Daily yet?
Yeah, came in at 3 a.m. What's Bill doing up that late?
Well, rumor has it, it starts off with a 12-hour meditation session.
Then he just pours himself over film and live TV, really focusing and taking it all in. Bill's in with the biggest insiders, talking trade secrets, strategies, the whole nine, absorbing the info.
And then and only then can the writing process begin.
In Las Vegas, Bill's late night becomes your early morning. Wake up to the very latest betting insights in your inbox with the VSiN Daily. Sign up for free at vsin.com/newsletter.
Numbers Game on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
With so many sports in action, there's no better time to put the VSiN experts to work for you. Become a VSiN Pro subscriber today. Get instant access to our daily best bets with the leaderboard to see which VSiN expert has the hot hand. 19 hours of live programming, power, strength, and better ratings, plus our exclusive betting splits. Start your VSiN Pro subscription today for as little as $9.99 and see everything VSiN has to up your betting game. Sign up today at vsin.com/subscribe. That's VSIN.com/subscribe. It's Gil Alexander live from Circa on a Numbers Game. Kelly Bidlin, once again, if you're tuning in, ate something bad, not feeling well, not in today. He'll be back on Monday. I should say to Kelly, I'll be like, really? You're taking a day off? My mom just passed away so soon? I'm going to use that. By the way, I use that for everything on this short-term thing. I use it for everything. Say to my girlfriend, she can't complain about anything. I'm like, hey, my mom just passed away. I think I can milk that for about a month. About that game last night, Lamar, 25 of 33 for 290, 4 touchdowns, no picks. That brings his season total to 24 touchdowns and 2 picks. He added 7 carries and 33 yards. 24-2 for Lamar. Wow. Tylan Wallace, 3 for 115 and a touchdown. Of course, most of that on that long touchdown where 3 Bengals failed to knock him out of bounds. And in losing effort, Burrow, 34 for 56 for 428. 4 touchdowns, no picks, three sacks. About the 2-point conversion, Joe Burrow said you're not getting that call in that situation for the most part. Talking about both the hold and the face and the getting hit in the face. He says, I've never really gotten those calls. You don't expect to get those. It's kind of a passive response, if you ask me. I will say this on Joe Burrow's behalf. If that's Patrick Mahomes getting hit in the face mask, you don't think that gets called? And you don't think the Chiefs will get the ball at the 1-yard line? By the way, Jamar Chase, 11 for 264. 11 for 264 and 3 touchdowns. I have a buddy who still plays fantasy football. He says to me, Gilly said that might be the greatest fantasy wideout performance in history. And if you do your sort of basic fantasy math, what is that? That's 26, 37. That is 50-plus points in fantasy for Jamar Chase. If you're playing him in fantasy, have a fun Sunday. You're kind of done already. The Bengals did outgain the Ravens 470 to 389 in total yards as well. This is as far as what Zach Taylor had to say, this is what Zach Taylor had to say about why the Bengals keep coming up short in big games.
Yeah, we got to figure that out. We got to find a way to close out these games. You know, we had our opportunity. We got down there, went for 2, and just didn't work out for us. But this team's going to continue to put us in good positions, and there's going to be a point in the season where that turns, and we'll respond the right way from this game. You got a 1-game season next week against the Chargers before the bye, and so we'll get our bodies right and get ready to go fight them.
Well, here's the thing with that, and that's, he said really nothing right there. The problem is the Bengals are 4-6. So, again, if he's saying at some point in the season that's going to turn, better turn now. Because at 4-6, here's the problem. From a betting standpoint, obviously this has implications. Not only we were saying how big of a football game this was yesterday, clearly those of us who had Bengals tickets to win the AFC North, yeah, that's not happening. As far as make-miss playoffs, we were going over the AFC make-miss playoffs earlier in the week, and we were trying to figure out, okay, who's going to end up being teams 6 and 7 once the AFC playoff picture is decided. And the Bengals were on that list. We're talking about that. They're still on the list, if you will. But how many more games can you afford to lose if you're the Cincinnati Bengals? You have 8 football games left. At a minimum, you've got to go 5-3. And 5-3 might not do it. 6-2 would, but 5-3 at a minimum. So you got to turn this around completely quickly. And the other thing that we talked about this week, where I think he has even more impact, is we talked about Joe Burrow. We had different guests who talked about Joe Burrow for Offensive Player of the Year at a really long shot number, 100-1. We talked about Aaron Schatz came on from Football Outsiders, and he talked about Joe Burrow for Comeback Player of the Year. Those are all great notions. But if your football team ends up with a losing record, let's just take it to the extreme. Let's say the Bengals go 4-4 the rest of the way. You've already banked. We usually talk about banking wins. Well, they've banked 6 losses already. So you're not winning those awards. As great as Joe Burrow has been, you're not winning those awards if you end up just way out, not even way out, but just out of the playoffs, period. So that's the problem. Also, we talked about Defensive Player of the Year, and I think Schatz mentioned Dexter Lawrence yesterday. It's tough. Like, can Dexter Lawrence really win Defensive Player of the Year, for instance, if the Giants only win 5 or 6 football games? Probably not. So, you have to factor that in when thinking about making bets on Burrow as well, that as brilliant as he's been, you're kind of behind the eight ball when it comes to awards based on your overall team record. Still time to turn it around if you're the Bengals, but that time is dwindling fast. And you even heard it, Zach Taylor in the same paragraph there, was like, oh, we got to turn things around. Must win at the Chargers. He said it himself before the Bengals have a bye. Then it's Steelers, at Cowboys, at Titans, home Browns, home Broncos, at Steelers. Not the hardest schedule down the stretch. But yes, Zach Taylor is right. A game like at LA, at SoFi against the Chargers, that's a fulcrum game. If you lose that, it probably is Katie bar the door, because then you're leaving yourself so little margin for error. How about some Are We Sure Week 10 in the National Football League? Kelly did leave some questions that he was curious about for Are We Sure Week 10 of the National Football League. Question number 1, are the Chiefs the team to beat in the AFC? We're not sure about that because the Ravens exist. I get it. I mean, Patrick Mahomes is still he's everybody's number one in terms of quarterbacks if you had one game to play. He's not having the greatest season ever. And the Chiefs, despite being undefeated, obviously are not as dynamic offensively as they have been in the past. But they're still the short shot to win the AFC at plus 170. But the question is, are they the team to beat? I don't know. I think it's a two-team monster. I do think the Chiefs and the Ravens are at the top of that. Bills fans, with apologies to Bills fans, I know how y'all feel about that because the Bills are the only other team in terms of the betting market that's anything short of 12-1 to win it, and they are plus 380. The Bills are cuddled up nicely to the Chiefs and Ravens in that market. I don't see it that way. I think it's a Chiefs and Ravens two-headed monster, as I said. So I would not say are the Chiefs the team to beat. They're one of the two teams to beat, I would say. The NFC playoff picture, will it change? I'm going to say yes, because currently the Niners are on the outside looking in. So in that respect, yes. I think the Niners end up being in the playoffs out of the NFC West when all is said and done. They are getting Christian McCaffrey back this week. Dre Greenlaw is supposed to follow very quickly. So right now, if you look at the NFC playoff picture, you pretty much have 6 teams that look really good to me. The Lions, Niners, Eagles, Vikings, Commodores, and Packers. And if you're looking to see, okay, well, who will end up with that 7th spot? We had some tweeters yesterday who liked the Buccaneers as a team that could make it from well behind right now. I don't see it that way. I do see the Niners ultimately outlasting the Cardinals and the Rams. So in that respect, I do see some change to the NFC playoff picture, but not by much. MVP, will it be Lamar? Are we sure? Let me do this segment correctly. Are we sure that it will be Lamar, Josh Allen, or Patrick Mahomes? That's not really stepping out on a limb there. I am sure. By the way, again, with apologies to Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson has 24 touchdown passes and 2 picks. You're not beating that. Like right now, if the vote was happening, he might be close to unanimous again. And remember, last year he got 49 out of 50 votes for MVP. Only our buddy Aaron Schatz did not vote for him for MVP. He voted for Josh Allen. By the way, we were at dinner with Aaron Schatz, Kelly, Matt Brown, and I, when that vote came down, and he heard that he was the one who prevented it from being unanimous. And let's just say we lost him for a good 5 minutes during that dinner. Jaden Daniels and Jared Verse, should they be as big of favorites as they are? Are we sure about that? Week 10 in the NFL. Jaden Daniels, yes, because the dude is just unbelievable. Doesn't turn the ball over, makes every right decision. Yes, Jaden Daniels should absolutely be the prohibitive favorite for Rookie of the Year. Should Jared Verse as Defensive Rookie of the Year? That's an interesting question because he only has 3.5 sacks. He only has 20 solo tackles, and he only has 1 forced fumble. So his actual counting stats, the ones that most fans would latch onto, not that impressive. But here's the deal with advanced stats. And this is why he absolutely should be, in my opinion, the Defensive Rookie of the Year favorite. 20% pass rush win rate has him tied with T.J. Watt, despite being doubled 25% of the time. He's 11th in total pressures in the entire league as a rookie, and among all players with at least 15 pressures this season, he's 6th in pressure rate. So even if he's not ultimately getting to the quarterback, he's allowing all his teammates to get to the quarterback. And of course, he does this with the backdrop of the Rams having lost Aaron Donald to retirement. So it makes it even more awesome for that franchise. So yes, I think Jared Verse should be, without question, the prohibitive favorite. And he is minus 200 right now. Latu is the next closest shot at plus 650. Kenyon Mitchell at 9-1. So yes, Verse at minus 200. I would say he should be that. I am sure about that. And then finally, favorites have been cruising after chaos in Survivor early, dogs getting home. The favorites on the season are out to a 97-42 straight-up record, 74-61-4 against the spread. I do think it will get close, not on the straight-up. Straight-up favorites are always going to crush. But in terms of the against the spread, 74-61-4, do I think that narrows? Yes, I am sure that it will narrow. The question is, am I sure that it will even out? I am not quite sure about that, but I do think it will narrow. As the season progresses, the market becomes that much more efficient. And so, yes, I do think it will. We'll come back. Paul Carr, his Premier League picks on the other side. It's a numbers game at VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
You spoke, we listened. Introducing the all-new VSiN Watch app. Now, you can watch and listen to VSiN expert analysis live wherever you are. Missed a show? No problem. Catch replays of VSiN's full lineup at any time. View highlights sorted by sport. Or use the search feature to find specific teams and topics you're looking for. And the best part? It's free for a limited time. Download the VSiN Watch app today. Available now on the App Store and Google Play. And join us on the Sports Betting Network.
This is VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Are you the type of player who's looking to get down $10,000 or more on an NFL line at the best price in the market? Or perhaps you're looking to get your in-game play instantly accepted? Introducing SportTrade, the app that's going to change sports betting forever. Minus 104 lines instead of the typical minus 110, instant in-game betting, and a concierge player service. SportTrade is perfect for those who want a premium betting experience. SportTrade live in New Jersey, Colorado, Iowa, Arizona, and now Virginia. Download SportTrade, use code VSiN to earn 10% cash back on each wager in your first week. Terms apply. You got to be 21 years or older to play. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. Skill Alexander. Kelly Bidlin allegedly ate something poorly, so he's not with me this morning. Allegedly, by the way. Who knows what happened there? We get tweets at Beat the Book. Always appreciate the feedback. Best listeners in the game. This is from MTW, 24 golfer, who asks, have you ever thought about offering a spot on the group text with Fezzik, Todd, Will, yourself, and the Bear? Seems like pure gold and the most profitable text in history. MTW, it is very profitable. The only problem with that is it is also super politically incorrect, and we would all be dunzo if anybody else were allowed in there. But I appreciate the I appreciate the sentiment, and you're right. We could probably auction that off for a nice price. A Joe named Jim, unscripted with the Crack Man, an hour or two on Fridays, definitely on the one lines of a theoretical ANG hour versus hour tournament. Guessing lines would be the overall number one seed in ANG segment versus segment tourney. Happy Friday. Ooh, I like that. I would love that. Hey, Joe named Jim, if you want to put that together, man, I would love to see what that looks like from your perspective. That's interesting. Thank you for that. James Sott, when all those points were being scored, all I could think about was Anchorman. The scene where, I assume he's, the scene, oh yes it is, there's a picture. He says the scene where Will Ferrell says, boy, that escalated quickly. That game sure did. Again, 7-7 in the final minute of the first half. Final score 35-34. Amazing. Again, lots of response to the young lady, Elaine, who dressed up as Bill Krakenberger for Halloween. Everybody seemed to enjoy that. So thank you to Elaine, and thank you to the numbers guys. That was his daughter who dressed up as the Crack Man for Halloween. Hoops by Hoots. I play in 5 fantasy leagues. 3 of them I'm playing the Burrow Chase stack. Oh, no. 1 league I have Henry and nothing in the other 2. So I am down a combined, this is great, I'm down a combined 311.12 to 13.1. Have a great Sunday of fantasy, Hoops by Hoots. It's kind of over already. That's messed up. Manny Davison at HumpDay_hockey. Over under on the number of beers Kelly consumed last night. Must have been a lot to be playing hooky. Feel better, Kelly. Yes, again, allegedly he ate something bad. And then the numbers guys, Elaine's dad says, what I've been saying since he was a sophomore at LSU, Chase is the best receiver on the planet. It's hard to argue with after seeing that performance last night. He is who we thought he was, basically, to quote the great Denny Green. Paul Cart joins us now, courtesy of the Progressive Guest Line. Comes to us from the heartland, Topeka, Kansas, center of the universe. Although Paul tells us it's not quite the center, like it's a few towns over, or at least a couple hours away, whatever it is. Paul Carr, at Paul Carr on Twitter, the host of the Expected Value podcast, and of course he works at True Media Networks. How you doing, Paul?
I'm well, Gil. Is there any truth to the rumor that Kelly went to the sushi place last night?
Hey. That sushi is...
I'm just asking.
...is fine sushi.
Okay,
he would never have gotten sick on that.
Right.
I do
just
agree.
wanted to clear that up.
I do agree with the theory about the drinking of the beers, though, because I'll tell you why. Because I didn't know about this last night. Kelly shoots me a text at about 4:40 in the morning or something like that. He's like, oh, hey, I should have told you this last night. So that does sound suspiciously like he's, a late decision is what I'm saying, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, maybe got doing shots every touchdown in the second half of that game or something.
Yeah, could be
good at halftime.
Could be. By the way, before we get to your soccer picks, and again, 3-0 last week in the Premier League, 2-1 in the Champions League midweek, so we're excited to hear what you have next. Do you have a thought on the Bengals, should they have gone for 2 or not debate?
Yes and no. My basic thought is this was really close, and you can make a pretty decent argument either way. I think it's a lot different than the Bucs one, where they would have been a clear underdog to the Chiefs were it to get to overtime. It's tough because there was 38 seconds left and the Ravens had 2 timeouts. So even if you take the lead, the way the Bengals defense was playing against the Ravens offense, you're not going to stop them. The flip side being you might have to try to stop them in overtime. So I think this was really close, and I don't have a strong feeling either way, but I think a coach could make the decision to either go for it or decide to try to go to overtime.
Yeah, I don't want to take away the thunder of the conversation I'm going to have with Fezzik later, because he really wants to talk about this. But the difference between... So his mark of delineation, and this is, again, with Fezzik, and I'll tell this when he's here, Fezzik has a bunch of... When Fezzik talks, he's so super certain, so super sure about his calculations. I'm not quite as sure. I think there's a kernel of wisdom to what he's saying, but I don't think he's quite as sure as he should be on some of these. But the point with what he's talking about is there is a mark of delineation on these decisions, which has to do with how much time is left. And his kind of marker is the 30-second mark. Yeah. And there's a lot that has to do with, we talked about this in the Bucs game a couple weeks ago. And the Bucs were going to have, the Bucs were playing Patrick Mahomes. They were bigger dogs than the Bengals were last night. That's part of the calculus too, right? The pre-flop number matters. It also, there's a motivational thing. If you tie, is the team then less incentivized because now they're not trailing, right? Now they're not trailing. So, when they're trailing, they have to matriculate and get
to go for two. They can take more chances because the turnover doesn't matter, things like that.
Yeah, so there's a lot that goes into it. Fezzik's going to explain it. Fezzik will do it in a very actuarial kind of way. That's his background, so he'll do it.
As he is.
Yes, he'll do as he is wont to do. What does this remind me of? This is like, when we used to talk about teams cutting it from 14 to 8, do they go from 8 to 7 or do they go to 8 to 6? And there was like a whole, what's a sort of a chart, a flow chart. That's the word. Right. That's the phrase. A flow chart of why the percentages mean you should go for 2. That's why it's correct analytically. Yep. This is a little like that, so we'll get into that. All right, Premier League, sir, what do you have?
We are playing the hits this week. I think I've made all these picks. Well, I have made all these picks over the past month or two so far this season. I'm going to start tomorrow. Brighton double chance against Man City on Saturday. or Brighton plus half a goal, depending on how your book lists it or which has the better price. Sometimes you get different prices on the two, but they're the same play. So we've gone against City last weekend with Bournemouth, midweek with Sporting, and both of those worked out. City is really scuffling right now. Lost 4-1 to Sporting on Tuesday. It played better than that. It was not a 4-1 type of route, but still, City, as I've said, not the same since Rodri went out with injury. Brighton has had a full week off. They've been playing pretty well. Beat Newcastle, beat Tottenham the last month, and played Liverpool pretty well last week. City's, they're struggling. Lots of space for forwards to do things, and Brighton has a couple of, competent to plus Premier League forwards in Danny Welbeck and Evan Ferguson. So I think there's going to be plenty of high-quality chances for both teams in this one. Brighton will get their share, get a goal or two. I think they get at least a draw out of this one. So Brighton double chance plus 105.
And for those who are just landing on this, once again, explain double chance to somebody who's a first-time listener.
Yep. They call it the double chance because you get it if they win or if they draw. So like I said, sometimes it's plus half a goal. Some books have specific double chance markets. Same bet. So either one, whichever you can find.
You're right.
Plus 105, I like.
You're right about playing the hits. This sounds just like the last segment we did with the double chance. Okay, you do have a total also tomorrow, but it's not the over. It's an under here for Paul Carr.
Yeah, we're rooting against human achievement. Going back to the well for a Liverpool under. Liverpool Aston Villa under 3.5, minus 135. 10 Liverpool Premier League games this season. 9 of them have had 3 or fewer goals. I think I've played 4 of those here on the show. So pretty straightforward. Both teams don't give up a lot of shots, don't give up high quality shots. I don't think there's going to be a lot of goals in this one. Again, Liverpool is not the kind of UNLV run and reb style that they played under Jurgen Klopp. They're a little more controlled under their new manager, and that's come out on the field. So under 3.5, minus 135, Liverpool and Aston Villa tomorrow.
Excellent running Rebels reference, and thank you for keeping playing against human achievement alive. I also appreciate that from you.
Got to keep that one going.
Got to keep that one going. Sunday, you have a play as well.
Go back to the well again with Nottingham Forest to win. I picked them to win 4 previous times on the show. They've won 2, both at pretty decent plus money. So that's working out well so far. Nottingham Forest is at home against Newcastle on Sunday. Forest is in 3rd place, which is very strange if you just look at the table and see, hey, there's Man City, hey, there's Liverpool, and there's Nottingham Forest. But it's not super fluky. I mean, they're 6th in expected goal difference this season. The defense has been really good. They've only allowed 7 goals total in 10 games. That's the 2nd fewest in the league. And they're allowing the worst shot quality to opponents. That's obviously a good thing from a defensive perspective. They defend well. They'll counter well with Chris Wood, who does Chris Wood things. Big Kiwi, as they call him, up top. He's from New Zealand. So good in transition for Forest. Newcastle not so good at defending that. A lot of injuries at the back also for Newcastle. Forest has been better than Newcastle on the whole this season, so I like this price you get as a dog. Plus 180 on the Forest home win against Newcastle.
All right, tomorrow, Brighton double chance, plus 105 versus Man City. Always shop around for the best price. Liverpool, Aston Villa, the under 3.5 goals. And then on Sunday, Nottingham Forest to beat Newcastle. That's around plus 180, but again, shop around for the best price. Paul, always a pleasure. Thank you so much, sir.
You bet. Have a good weekend.
You too. Paul Carr, everybody. The Expected Value Podcast and True Media Networks. Check him out on Twitter at Paul Carr, C-A-R-R. Jason Weingarten from Under a Cloud of Smoke next. All his bets.
Got a good thing coming, so wait and see. It's a good.
Mitch Moss and Paulie Howard share their knowledge of sports, gambling, and pop culture on Follow the Money at a New Time.
Like the guy can play football.
Yep.
And without him, we're talking about this team maybe being the worst one in the entire league.
On the bandwagon, I was high on this team, but my concern was this awful coaching staff.
They'll keep tabs on the big wins and bad beats from the night before. Plus, get you geared up for the action that's about to begin. Follow the Money now at 4 p.m. Eastern, right here on VSiN, the sports betting network.
A numbers game on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Our all-new VSiN Watch app is out. Makes it easy to watch or listen to VSiN anywhere, anytime on your phone or tablet. And for a limited time only, you can watch it for free. Visit the Apple app or Google Play Store now to download the VSiN Watch app. It is streamlined. It is sleek. It is sexy. Okay, I'll stop. 24/7 access to our live audio and video stream. Watch replays of your favorite VSiN shows. Easily stream video to your smart TV. Browse clips by sport. Or use the search feature to find the specific VSiN expert insights you're interested in. The VSiN Watch app is free to download for both Apple and Android users, so do not delay. Visit the Apple and Google App Store now to download the all-new VSiN Watch app now and become part of the Sports Betting Network. Skill Alexander, we get tweets at Beat of the Book. Always appreciate the feedback. Blue Hen Bill. This tweet takes like 5 different directions, so I'm going to have to navigate this. It says, hope everyone realizes that Carson Wentz is the Kansas City Chiefs backup. If Mahomes' ankle goes downhill and with Buffalo on deck, Denver has a real shot. Oh, okay, so this is a tweet about the Denver Broncos. Wentz is just collecting a paycheck. Wentz was Philly's Robert Griffin. Hey, Blue Hen Bill. There will be no RG3 slander on this program. By the way, both Carson Wentz and RG3, whatever you think of immediately when you think of both of those players, they both of their careers got destroyed by injury. We will never know. Carson Wentz, MVP caliber. Robert Griffin won Offensive Rookie of the Year, and they both had their knees blow out on them. So we'll never know what they could have been. But you're saying, but the point is taken, and I say this about my power rankings all the time with the Chiefs at 1, and I say I don't care what order you have the Chiefs, Ravens, and Lions in. But there's no question that the Ravens and Lions are more robust than the Chiefs. You're absolutely right. If Mahomes did go down, they will crater in a way that I think we all would expect them to. By crater, I mean they become a middling, maybe playoff caliber, but bottom end of playoff kind of team. Sparty KY sounds like the brown bottle flew to me for Kelly. JC562076 asking to be added. This is a little tweeter on Twitter crime right here. He says asking to be added to a friend group text is a little wild. Talking about previous tweeter's request. 3JackH3131. Are we sure? Going back to our segment from a few segments ago. Are we sure Kelly is still reliable as a producer? Feels like an opening on the horizon. Happy Football Friday. Shots fired at Kelly Bidlin. There's no opening. Kelly's my guy. But yeah, you drink at night and then you say you ate bad food and you don't show up. I don't know. Something to mark. Something to be permanently noted in his file. Let's put it that way. I'm kidding. We love Kelly. But thank you, 3Jack, for that. Ladies and gentlemen, he comes to us from under a cloud of smoke somewhere in Southern California. You can find him on Twitter at Spreadopedia, courtesy of the Progressive Guest Line. It's the great Jason Weingarten. How you doing, Jason?
Pretty good. It's been a week. Long week, huh?
Yeah. What are you referring to?
Everything.
Yeah.
It's the news, I think the reaction, the fallout of the election is different the last 2 cycles compared to this one, but it's been a week. It's almost like sports has been not the most important thing all of a sudden.
Well, I certainly have had a week myself that I probably could top anybody's, but that's a different story. Yes, I hear what you're saying. The election is. I think we're all kind of glad it's over. No matter where you fell on the political spectrum, I think everybody's happy to move on. Not everyone's happy with results, but everybody's happy to move on from the run up to it. Let me ask you a question. We always talk about this time of year. You're a big baseball guy. Major League Baseball awards schedule. The ones we care about as bettors. It is November 8th currently, Jason. November 18th is the first one of these that matters to us. What are they doing? Why? Why do they do this?
You're asking the wrong guy. I'm the president of the Let's Change This fan club. Every year I bring the same thing up, and it's crazy because every day we get farther away, I care less and less about it, and now 10 days from now, they're going to be like, oh, by the way, here's the awards results that we've had since, the day after the end of the regular season. But we'll kind of have an idea what happens. I don't know if it'll be, I guess it's Friday. So some point next week, Bob Nightingale will probably leak the presenters, and we'll have a pretty good
That's
idea.
right. Yes, they will telegraph the passes they always do. Oh, look, it's Paul Skeen's mom giving out Rookie of the Year. What do you know?
The worst part is just like to the Rookie of the Year, for example, they don't just come out and say it. They make you wait a whole hour to do a whole TV show out of it.
It's so bad.
On November 18th. Who wants to talk about the baseball regular season for an hour on November 18th? It's one of those things, baseball, like, these are easy fixes to make everything better, and they're just, I don't know why they do it, but they're doing it.
By the way, shout out to Todd Bubba Horowitz, who passed on the schedule to me. There's there's like Gold Glove Awards and that kind of stuff, right? Executive of the Year, Silver Slugger, reliever of the year, designated hitter, outstanding designator, comeback player of the year. All those precede November 14th. Starting on November 18th. Oh, God, November 18th, 10 days from now. Rookie of the Year awards on November 18th. Manager of the Year, which I don't think you have any bets on, November 19th. Cy Young is not till November 20th. MVP not till November 21st. Goodness gracious.
And the worst part is the MVP, we've known who's going to be.
Exactly. By the way, Will Hill, shout out to Will Hill, who called Aaron Judge at 16-1. He doesn't feel like I've given him enough respect for that bet. So there you go, Will Hill. 16-1 on Aaron Judge.
That was a good one.
Make good. Yes, it was. Okay, NFL awards. You have thoughts on this. Where do you want to start?
Well, start with the MVP here. Obviously, top of the board, you got the big three, Jackson, Allen, Mahomes. Jared Goff, I think the best numbers were obviously in the offseason, but you really got to kind of group him into an actual contender status at this point, especially if the Lions continue performing the way they are. It's also, he's got that narrative kind of going for him. And I like the trade with the Rams, it worked out so well for both sides.
Yes,
it
did.
Rare.
Yes, it did.
So rare to see a trade where both sides can claim they won like that,
Yeah, the ultimate, if Jared Goff ends up winning the Super Bowl for the Detroit Lions, it is the ultimate showstopper win-win trade ever, right? Every other win-win trade would have to measure up to that. That'd be the greatest because each will have won a Super Bowl after the trade for their respective teams in that trade. Lamar Jackson, though, 24 touchdowns and 2 picks. We have some MVP trends. This was given to us by Cleve, TA, who does a great job giving parameters. 11 straight, 16 of the last 17 have been quarterbacks. Those teams have averaged over 13 wins per season. So that's going to have a lot to do with it if history is a guide. No MVP in the last seasons came from a team with less than 11 wins. Keep that in mind. It looks like both the Ravens and Lions will exceed that, speaking of Jackson and Goff specifically. The average preseason win total for these teams has been 10 wins with a floor of 8.5 wins. So that's right. They check out on all of these, basically. Those two guys, anyway.
And Jackson's going to be hard to beat. Don't get me wrong, especially when you're putting up numbers like he is. I'm just saying that the narrative that Goff has, and if he continues to drive the Lions to success, might finally kind of push them towards the MVP. It's just kind of one of those things. I got my eye on it. I know it's not the best number. Then on the defensive side of the ball, just wanted to talk real quick. Obviously, TJ Watt's going to be the overwhelming favorite for Defensive Player of the Year right now. But there are a couple other guys that are doing some interesting things. Unfortunately, a guy I like the most, like Trey Hendrickson, doing good things, but probably on a team that's worse than the Steelers. So I don't necessarily see him winning, but I am actively trying to find somebody to make a case for against TJ Watt here. Otherwise, it's a heavy favorite early in the season like this. And then Jared Verse, he's minus 190. Isn't that a little heavy for a guy? Like, don't get me wrong, he's good, but I could look at 3, 4, 5 other guys here at bigger numbers that I think, I'd much rather take a shot on. And I mentioned Evan Williams, Dallas Turner, another defensive lineman, Beanie Bishop. He was just the Rookie of the Month, 40-1 there. There's a lot going on the defensive Rookie of the Year side right now, I think.
Let me repeat I gave the case for Jared Verse a little earlier on the show in a segment that we did called Are We Sure? Yes, you're right. Only 3.5 sacks, only 20 solo tackles, only 1 forced fumble. But advanced stats, 20% pass rush win rate. That's tied with TJ Watt. despite being doubled 25% of the time. 11th in total pressures in the entire league as a rookie, and among all players with at least 15 pressures this season, he's 6th in pressure rate. So you have to ask yourself, of those 50 voters, how many of those care about that kind of stuff? That's the question.
I don't think they will, and I think that if those numbers are correct, you're going to see teams scheme to block them better in the next couple weeks. But I'll be there for Monday Night Football, so I'll get the chance to watch it personally.
Yeah. They're doubling him already, so it's not like they don't know. Jason, appreciate it as always, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me on. I'll talk to you later, Gil.
My man, Jason Weingarten, at Spreadopedia. Always a fun Twitter follow. Fezzik, Felica, Dr. Bob. Felica first next.
Sports bettors, this is your chance. VSiN is bringing you an unbeatable deal. Get a VSiN Pro subscription